How's it going, you guys? So last year, the Hoka Rincon replaced the Clifton for many people who wanted a lighter weight option that was also a little bit more responsive. Well, this year they have a new version of the Rincon, and that's the Rincon 2. Luckily, the Rincon 2 hasn't changed too much, so after a few runs in it, I'm ready to give you my first impressions. Let's start with what's new. The upper is the big change from last year's version. It is now an engineered sandwich mesh, which helps make it more comfortable and provide a more dialed in fit. The midsole is the same as last year. It is still light and cushioned, but has a nice responsiveness to it. It's mainly exposed foam for the outsole that does get ripped up quite easily, but there are a few spots of rubber in the high wear areas. As for the fit of the Rincon 2, it still fits true to size. I found it to fit the same as the Rincon 1, and the ride is the same as the Rincon 1 as well. It's nice and smooth, it's cushioned, but not overly plush, and it's a nice all-around versatile ride. But let's go a little bit more in depth about what's new with the Rincon 2 and compare it to a couple other shoes. First up, let's compare it to the Clifton 1. So like I mentioned earlier, the upper is the only real difference between these two shoes. The upper on the Rincon 1 is very light and has large holes for airflow. It's very flexible without much reinforcement. The Rincon 2 does sacrifice a bit of breathability, but compared to the previous version, the upper is more reinforced, which I think helps with the fit and keeping my foot locked in better. I'll let you know in my full review, but I have a feeling that the upper is going to be more durable as well. The midsole on the Rincon 2 is the same as the Rincon 1. It's still very cushioned and a bit firmer than the Clifton, making it very versatile and great for picking up the pace. Again, nothing's changed with the outsole, and I'm expecting the durability to be the same there as well. The rubber holds up great, but the exposed foam does get torn up quickly. Alright, I've said this before, the Rincon is essentially a Clifton Light. So, how does it compare to the Clifton 6? The Clifton 6 has a more plush upper that uses a different type of mesh, but it isn't too different from the Clifton 2. The Clifton 7 is where it has a completely different upper, but I'll talk more about that in my Clifton 7 video. I really like both the midsole in the Rincon and the Clifton, but for longer and slower runs, the Clifton excels since it is softer and more cloud-like. The Rincon is lighter and slightly firmer, which makes it great for when you need to be up on your toes more or get a quicker turnover. The Clifton has a lot more rubber on the outsole, which is better as an everyday workhorse. While the exposed foam on the Rincon does show a lot of wear, it doesn't really affect the durability too much. One shoe that isn't from Hoka that I thought would be good to compare to the Rincon 2 is the Brooks Hyperion Tempo. That's because I think these two shoes share a lot of use cases with each other. They can both be used for up-tempo, long, fast runs, or they can be used for everyday trainers. So let's compare them. The upper in the Hyperion Tempo is much simpler and much thinner. The Hyperion Tempo is nice for fast paces, but the upper on the Rincon is better for everyday training. The midsole on the Hyperion Tempo is a lower stack height, but it uses nitrogen-infused EVA. This adds a slight bounce to the shoe. The Rincon 2 has more cushioning, but doesn't have that little extra bounce to it. Now on the outsole, the Hyperion Tempo definitely has more coverage, but the rubber itself is thinner and not quite as durable as that rubber on the Rincon 2. So even though they are both really versatile, I think that the Hyperion Tempo does better at quicker paces and is kind of more like a racing flat, while the Rincon leans more towards the everyday trainer type of category. So the Rincon 2 keeps its lightweight, its versatile midsole, and now gets a more durable, improved upper. After I put some more miles on it, I'll give you my full review, but until then, subscribe so you don't miss my new videos coming out on the Clifton 7 and the Hoka Torrent 2. But as always, keep on running.